What is going on, everybody? Bobby Five with my man Eric Sheets-Haber. Hope everyone's having a good Monday. Hope you had a good weekend. I am coming off of a second vaccine dose that I was ready to feel something. I wasn't ready to feel quite as knocked out as I've been for the past couple days, but hopefully just turning it around now. And before that, I was coming off of 2 actual winning days at DFS for the first time in a while, so that feels good. It wasn't any huge wins, but it's nice to at least get back on the right side of things. And now we're going to start fresh again this week and get after it. Sheets, how are you doing? I know you had some success over the weekend. Why don't you talk about that, and then we'll jump into the slate.
Yeah, a couple of brags. Number one, you guys, I told you this before, is that I spent probably, with all the different money I spent on DFS last week and all the time I spent all the different sports, whatever it is, probably spent like 40% of my time working on that one MMA draft cash game lineup. And the reason why is because, again, that was the qualifier that I qualified for back in August. It was a $3,000 entry into this now 100-man thing that had several layers of it. The first was like last week where they had 100 down to 50. So it was a cash game, it was double up. And these are some good players in here, including people with like multiple buy-ins. It's hard. So I got through that one easily. And this past weekend, I got through it as well. So we're now down to the final 25. I think they're playing it next week. I'm not sure, where first prize, 100,000. And for someone who hadn't played MMA until this year, I'm kind of freaking proud of that. So we'll let's I'm gonna continue to work hard on that once I know that it's this week's slate. NASCAR, not so great. Golf was a disaster, but I won a GPP in basketball last night. I won the single entry in the NBA. We'll go over that more in the NBA thing.
Beautiful.
And then baseball, I did nicely on Saturday as well. So overall, probably broke even for the weekend. And I just so you know, I did lose 2 hockey slates in a row. I just thought I.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it is possible to lose in hockey.
When you lose hockey slates, I start winning other slates. When I can't win a slate, you're winning every hockey slate. I don't know. We can't seem to get on the same page. I'm not even playing hockey. All right. Okay. Well, let's get into it. Let's pull up your screen. Let's go game by game here, because
this is a weird one.
It's a weird one because there's a lot of weather concerns out there.
And that I didn't even know that.
Oh, it's gonna be tricky. I'm looking at the forecast, and I've got at least like 4 games that are.
Well, let's go over that first. What games are orange? What games are ready to be issued?
So danger games would be Milwaukee, Philly, Dodgers, and Chicago, Mets and Cardinals, and Giants and Rockies.
Okay, so we'll deal with that. I made a note of that. We'll deal with those games when we get to them. So let's start with that. So let's start with See, I think this slate is incredibly interesting from, I don't want to say a leverage perspective, from a construction perspective, because it touches on something like kind of a question that I brought up to you many, many times in DFS, is when you have kind of weak pitchers and kind of weak hitting teams, which do you go for, or do you go for both? It does it based on ownership and things like that. And then also what's interesting about today's slate is that all the pitchers have some issues. I guess it's not like no one's like without a doubt. You know what I mean? So that's one thing. And the second thing is that I think there's a lot of opportunities for leverage tonight. Mm-hmm. And there's so many opportunities for leverage that maybe everybody's pivoting off of everybody, and then everybody's a pivot. So then nobody's a pivot. I don't know. We'll talk about that as we get to it. I was very interested in going over this actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess we'll go through it game by game here. So we'll start with Milwaukee and Philly, which obviously has some weather concerns. I'm not interested in either of these pitchers. I could understand making an argument for a bunch of GPPs that why you would take some shots here. Probably maybe lean a little. I've always been like a sucker for Velasquez. I'm not even a sucker. He used to be a better pitcher, but I don't think he's the same guy right now exactly. I still think he'll end up like bouncing back a little bit, but I'm not in love with either pitcher, but I could see an argument made for both. I think Velasquez would be maybe my 6th or 7th pitcher on the slate if I was making that many.
Yeah, Velasquez is my 8th pitcher. So we're in the same game, same ballpark as far as that's concerned. Now, the only thing I will say is that according to very advanced StatCast-based analytics, Milwaukee sucks.
Yeah, the only thing is that they also are in first place and have like the third best record in baseball or whatever.
Yeah,
So trying to
I shouldn't say Milwaukee sucks.
I'm just kidding, I'm
Milwaukee's
third.
hitters are very prone to DFS
Yes.
pitchers. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
I'm not a Velasquez guy either, so I'm not getting to it. But I'm sure I wouldn't blame you. You make sure before you go play, just go play Velasquez. That Yelich is not back. By the way, I'm not sure if he's back or not. I know he's threatening to come back. And I'm not into Hauser, so I'm kind of off of this game from the pitching side. I would be interested somewhat if the game goes off. Now, as with maybe some Milwaukee, just for some value, just for maybe they'll be somewhat low owned. I wouldn't mind a little bit of that. Garcia, Wong, Jackie Bradley, Travis Shaw, cheap catcher, Luke Malley. So I'd be interested in that a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, just based on it's early in the day, but I'll just remind my whole thing with this, I don't play one-offs and two-offs in games that are this risky. And this game it looks really bad. So if you're playing this, I think you're playing a minimum of 4 players in the game or something like that, because you don't want to just take pieces of something that legitimately.
Oh, I'm the worst. With me, I mean, they know about this in the Discord.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in weird like fade all weather mode this year.
I hear you. I don't think it's the wrong thing to do. I mean, not the wrong thing to do. Sometimes there's the wrong time. I actually think Yelich probably will be in the lineup today. Everybody's too cheap. That's the truth. Especially for Milwaukee, and there is definitely an upside against Velasquez. So I would just say that I would have a little bit probably more interest in. I would have mild interest in both stacks if the game plays. And you get guys like Shaw, Gregorius, really cheap, Vogelbach, obviously, Herrera, the near minimum, Garcia, 3.1. Like there's just a lot of really good prices. So if you wanted to game stack this, and sort of risk the weather, but it's still not my favorite game on the slate. And then again, the ones that are my favorite game are also going to have weather concerns. So it's a little tricky today. This is a stack or fade the whole game situation for me. So we'll have to pick that one up later today.
Okay, I guess. Next game is that game you're talking about?
Next game is another one. This one looks bad too. This is the Dodgers
and weather because I wasn't aware that all these.
Yeah, it just looks really. I don't know. I guess there's something going on.
That's like a really big deal because I mean, like there isn't a lot of.
I know.
Of good pitching on the slate.
It's true. But
you're telling me that Bueller is not out of play, but oh yeah, I'm looking at this bad timing.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Wow, that's not good at all.
No. So assuming this game is playing, the wind is blowing out. Let me just get my page again. Sorry.
Well, this is not what I was expecting when I started this cast. I didn't realize this weather. I was gonna say that I was gonna maybe Bueller as I like him even better than Glass now, and then I didn't know about the wind and all of it, and then I was gonna go off for a kind of a galaxy brain total fate of the Dodgers because they scored 16 runs yesterday and the whole thing, and then now the game might not even play.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So. Assuming that it does play again, even if it does, I don't think that I'm going to end up getting to the pitching. Partly the wind blowing out, but also I don't want to. I have to look into in-game delays. That stuff is hard to figure out in the morning and all that stuff. But I do think that the Dodgers would be a legitimate stack. I don't like stacking against Hendricks in general. He doesn't look quite right this year. To me, he doesn't miss enough bats for a team like the Dodgers to worry me. I don't know that I would say it's my favorite stack, but I do think that with the prices they've come down to and AJ Pollock, who just had 700 RBIs yesterday, is 3,500 still. Gavin Lux is 2,800. I would definitely be at least mini stacking the Dodgers, assuming this game goes ahead. And I want no parts of the Cubs if we get this game.
I had the Dodgers just on raw ability as my second best stack. I had a team better. Mm-hmm. Respective, you factor in ownership, but but if the Dodgers don't play, it's gonna ruin my whole mojo here. So I gotta see what goes on with that. But yeah, I mean, Dodgers obviously if they play, I mean, like all my stuff about the 16 runs aside. I mean, you have a guy that's not striking anybody out, throwing against Dodgers lefties. Good luck to you.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
but the only problem is the Dodgers occasionally, and I mentioned it the other night with Lauer. Remember when they were playing, they stopped throwing, and I know Hendricks is a righty, but the guys who don't really like the power pitchers who are high strikeout guys, the Dodgers just crush those guys. They just absolutely crush them. These other guys who are like they've run into little bits of issue here and there. That's the only thing I would say against them. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you there.
Yeah, so I would love to fade the Dodgers. That was my whole mantra, is fading the Dodgers this week, today. But if they're not going to play, it's harder to fade.
Then yeah, they'll be fading with
everybody. All right.
Yeah, so it's pretty tough at the beginning here. I do think this next game is super interesting in every way. So
okay.
I mean, this is where I'm going to be probably focused. Your boy. I first of all, I don't think Texas's bullpen or team in general is very good, and Dunning, he's been hit pretty hard a couple times now. Now he hasn't given up the big like home runs and stuff, but he's not lasting long enough. So he also the K rate, everything, the pitch types, everything sort of lines up for in the prices for me wanting to stack Minnesota here. The prices outside of the four really high price guys, but you've got Kirilloff at 2,900, you've got Kepler at 3,400, you've got Arias who you could use at 3,800 leading off. Donaldson is reasonable enough at 4,800. I think he's actually back in general. I like the Minnesota stack, and as of right now, I'm not planning on playing any lineups without Kenta Maeda on DraftKings, and I probably will use him on FanDuel also. I have him as the number one pitcher on the slate. And him and Glass. I have literally him and Glass now. Now, not at the same price, but if they were within 1,000 of each other, I probably would still have Maeda as much of or more than Glass now.
It would be nice if he could pitch more than 2 pitches, right? I mean,
I'm not going to be worried about a few bad games. It's not like he's throwing no pitches. He's just been getting himself in trouble, I think. What did he throw the last game? I actually don't have that in front of me right now.
Last game, it's 75 pitches, 4 fantasy points.
Yeah, I know he didn't strike anybody out in that game.
Yeah, before that, they only up 17 runs the game before that.
That's those kind of things are never going to worry me much. I'm still buying. I don't think Kenta Maeda is completely broken, and his price is reasonable enough where he is my SP. Whatever. I'm not saying he's the best pitcher on the slate. I'm just saying that against Texas here, he is the guy I have is the guy that I will use the most as of right now. That may change later, but I don't care how much he's struggled. I don't care about any of that. I'm going with the long term, and I think he's been a bit unlucky as well. Pretty much everything that's been put in play has been a hit. So I don't see that lasting forever. He's never given up like so many hits like this. It's kind of crazy. It's not even like he's walking people or anything. He's just. And the strikeouts are down, but I'm not worried about it. This Texas team will be a great get right spot for him. So Maeda and Minnesota are a lot of what I'm going to be doing today.
Okay, so where I'm at in this game, I didn't want to just feel as though I was pushing you a little bit. I think Maeda is clearly my best pitcher on FanDuel for openers. Yeah. And he's also a little bit sneaky, but he's tied for actually my best pitcher on DraftKings too. So I'm not disagreeing with you. Just saying, when I stare at the game log, I'm a little nervous. A little nervous to the point where, it wouldn't be the worst idea in the world to play like Joey Gallo and who's the guy Calhoun and Lowe and all these guys. I mean, it certainly wouldn't hurt to play those guys also. 100%. So I don't mean the same lineup, you know what I mean? But I agree with you. I think the pitching is very, very, very suspect today. And I think I agree with you. I think that he's my very lukewarm favorite on DraftKings, and he's clearly right now at least my top pitcher on FanDuel.
Yeah, and I agree with what you said. If you're not playing him, I would look at Dahl, Gallo, Lowe as a cheap combo stack, or Calhoun. Get a nice little 3-4 man in. He's given up 3 home runs each of the last 2 games he's pitched. So
just piggyback off what you said, and then to ask you a question. So with respect to the Minnesota guys. I like playing Kepler against righties. Against righties.
Yeah.
I don't like playing anybody against Dunning in general.
You are really on this guy, and I can't figure out entirely why.
No, not because I think he's going to strike anybody out. He's just a freaking just a sinker jump guy. I think, you know what I mean. It keeps the ball down. But which leads me to my question. So I hear this a lot. I mean, not as much from you, but other people too. So you have these sinker ball pitchers, right? And then you have DFS people say, okay, what I want to do is I want to target guys that hit fly balls against sinker ball pitchers. I guess the logic being that the two might even out and the ball goes over the fence or something like that.
Oh, it does happen quite often like that, actually.
Well, I wanted to ask if that's actually the case, or is it something that seems to make sense? Because you can look at it the other way. You're like, these guys are sinker ball pitchers to prevent fly ball guys from hitting the ball out of the park.
Yeah, but the way that hitters approach things nowadays and their willingness to strike out is they're going to stay true to their swing. And they're going to be swinging for the fences. That's what they're told to do. That's what all the analytics have told them to do.
But if they're swinging for the fences, how does that translate into better production against sinker ballers than high ball throwers?
It translates. Well, I'm just saying in general, guys who fly ball hitters against ground ball pitchers tend to have a better. It tends to work out better as a home run. Now, a fly ball pitcher against a fly ball hitter in a place like Coors would be a dream also. So it's not like you can't play fly ball guys against fly ball guys. That's not what I'm saying at all. That would have more to do with the stadium and stuff that you're in. I don't know what to tell you. It's just a fact. It's proven that there's guys who have run.
Is it proven? You know what I mean?
Yes, it is. There's guys who run tests on this. We've talked about it over the last 5 years, and I've had this question 100 times, I think, from you even. And fly ball pitchers against guys who keep the ball on the ground. It goes both ways where it evens out each way. And in general, you do want that. Now, I'm not saying Dunning is going to give up a ton of home runs. I still like the spot. I think it's going to be a difficult lineup for him to get through. And I don't think he's going to be in the game. I don't know. I don't want to say he won't be in the game.
No, I don't think so either. I mean,
I don't know how long he's going to last here exactly. His only successful games this year, he had the first game against Toronto, which is a good hitting team. And I mean, he got through 5 innings against the Angels. The hard hit rate is pretty good still against him. He does keep the ball on the ground, but I'm not entirely buying it. I think Minnesota is a really underrated offense and getting back to being healthy. So I do like the team. They're kind of hard to afford everybody. But yeah, I mean, to what you were saying, I think Nelson Cruz is clearly the best play of all these guys because of his extreme fly ball tendencies, because he can elevate a ball that's pitched to the ground. He knows this too. You know what I mean? The hitters have the final say, right? Like the pitcher decides the pitcher is going to attack him, and try and throw him sinker balls. It's not like the hitter doesn't know that and he's not ready for that. You know what I mean? And it'll work against the Baltimores and all that stuff. When you put a good lineup together that's disciplined and knows how to hit, I'm willing to attack it. Even though, again, the one thing that you would be worried about is, Dunning has given up only 1 home run this year. So that does make it a little bit scarier, but I still like the Minnesota team. Partially, I've already not crossed off, but I have a lot of games in question marks. And this is one of the few offenses that I like that actually is clean. And I can feel comfortable knowing that they're actually going to play the game.
Mets St. Louis for me is a game that's really only going to enter my radar on my 25th lineup maybe. Like if I played a bunch of lineups, I'd probably get to some Mets. I don't think I would get to either of the and maybe some Cardinals. I wouldn't get to the either of the pitchers. I don't think, no matter how many I threw in there. But with respect to the hitting, I'm always a sucker for the Mets lefties. Even though Wainwright's not I don't know if he's particularly reverse splits, but I just think the Mets lefties are better anyway. But I would take Alonso and the lefties hitting 1, 2, 4, 5, or that whoever's hitting down there, and then but again, it wouldn't be my first 3 lineups I would get to them. If that makes any sense. And then likewise on the Cardinals, Lucchese's no great shakes either. Maybe some of these St. Louis guys, they're not showing up as that great for me. But if I got to some of them in like a crunch or something like that, I wouldn't X them out. I guess that's pretty much where I'm at. See, the thing is, I like Dijon. I like Edmund too, but he's a lefty. Arenado's fine. Goldsmith's fine. You know what I mean? These guys are all okay, but it's going to take a bunch of lines for me to get to them.
Yeah, this is another game with serious weather concerns. So it's a little tricky, but I just want to say for a minute that in real life, and I've watched them play a few times. Not, I wasn't stacking against them, but I would take a couple two offs, a couple whatevers here and there. I think Adam Wainwright has looked more like the old Adam Wainwright than usual. He's going to give up some hits. He's going to give up some hard contact. The strikeouts, though, have been good for him. He pitched a complete game against Philly last time out. He's going to give up some home runs even usually, but I don't really want to stack against him. I don't think I want to play him either, especially because this game's got this game seems like a little better weather-wise, but could have some delay issues. And I'm sort of a little bit like I don't want to play Wainwright, but I'm just mentioning him because there aren't that many guys I love on this slate pitching wise, and a lot of them are not even able to pitch possibly because of the weather. But I do think I don't think it's the worst idea to try and get like some of these, especially like Conforto, Nimmo. They're affordable enough. JD Davis has been good this year. You could argue for Dominic Smith. I'm not going to play Jeff McNeil on a slate like this unless I'm stacking. And Lindor, and then obviously Alonso. Those would be the way. Picking one or two of those guys. I would prefer the lefties, but I don't feel the need to go after Wainwright like some people were early in the season as much. That's just where I'm at right now. But I do like the cheap Mets lefties a little bit. And then on the other side, against Lucchesi, who I don't think is actually as bad a pitcher as maybe people might think. I think he's trying to come back. Let's put it this way. A couple years ago, this guy was on the way to being decent. I don't think he's going to pitch that many innings anyway. I think he's probably going to throw 60, 70, maybe not even that many, maybe like 50 pitches. So I wouldn't get too caught up on the splits for righties and lefties. But the truth is, St. Louis's lineup is mostly righties anyway, so it's not going to matter. And you got a few switch hitters in there. I think the guys who I would be trying to zero in on would be Tommy Edman, DeYoung, Arenado. Arenado probably being number one if you can afford him there, and he's actually reasonably priced. And then Goldschmidt. Those guys are all the ones. Oh, and even I forgot Tyler O'Neill as well. Those would be the guys I'd focus on, and they really are all in play. I don't think I would stack in this bullpen game, but I do think that getting like a nice little, 3-man or a 2-man or even a 4-man or whatever on DraftKings, I think it's in play. I think the Cardinals are viable today.
Ready to move?
Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna lose, but this is probably what I'm doing. On my 8 of lineups, I think I'm gonna hope that that 4K is good enough, and play probably Daniel Lynch, because what I'm gonna probably do is I might end up fading the Colorado, San Francisco cheaper guys and just trying to pay up for hitting in like more leveragey spots. So if my 8 of lineups, I mean, I don't have to do this, right? But I think if I'm going to play, like I was going to say Bueller, but Glass now, I am going to play probably some Daniel Lynch and just hope he gets 10 fantasy points. Certainly make the case to go on the other side too. This guy could just get crushed by Mr. Lefty Master himself, Jordan Luplow, or Ramirez can always do some damage. I don't even know if Reyes is playing nowadays, but you could certainly play Cleveland guys too. But I'm probably going to play some Daniel Lynch at 4K. And that was pretty much all I had from this.
Yeah, I need to do a little more research on Lynch. I only know about him a little bit.
Pretty bad.
Was that?
Supposedly pretty bad.
I don't think it's hard to know. Like, I hear this all the time. And this is one thing I despise about sports people in general. And one thing I really despise about like some of the Run Pure Sports guys and one of these other guys, they talk about these 19-year-old kids in basketball. They're like, oh, no, he sucks. He'll never be able to play in the end. They don't know it's just nonsense. And people say this.
I know, but I just see 77.
Go ahead.
I just see 77 versus 23 in single A, 3.10 ERA, 1.27 WHIP in single A. I mean, that can't be great. I mean,
No, I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying that I don't have enough information to back that one up. I'm just throwing it out in general because I hear it all the time from everyone.
I got you.
Oh, this guy sucks now, and also that everybody's very quick to think everyone's washed all the time. It's like the weirdest thing. It's like guys don't go to be washed in like a week or something.
Corey Kluber, for example.
Corey Kluber, yeah, exactly, and he actually is on the closer side to being washed. There's other guys they're doing it with. They're like legit studs. All right, I have a little bit of interest in Cleveland. You've got your man Luplow.
I forgot Savali. I didn't get to
the number one. Everybody knows my affinity for a few different players. Obviously, Acuna is my guy this year, but my number one guy for throughout history is usually Jose Ramirez.
Sure.
He's always high priced. There's always tough people at third base. He usually ends up lower owned. He probably won't be. Then every now and then he'll be like 1,000,000% owned, and then you know what I mean. He has so like. It sounds weird to say about baseball players, but he's got like the most upside of most hitters outside of guys like Acuna. Because again, he'll run when he gets out there. If he's not hitting a double, he's running, and he's swinging for the fences too. So you get the home run, the speed upside, and obviously hits in a great spot in the order, and decent enough hitters around him. So I would rank them. Probably Ramirez. Ramirez, Luplow, I guess. I feel like I don't want to have Luplow. It's like even Ahmed Rosario. It's not a fun group of guys to stack. I love Eddie Rosario, but it's the lefty. He's actually okay in that spot, so maybe I would go there. But it's not the most exciting lineup in the world.
Wow.
It kind of makes you see why you want to play a little bit of Lynch. So I'm okay with the Lynch thing. Also, I do think that it's not the worst kind of slate to try and really differentiate your build. And I mean, depending on the weather, and maybe you could play Lynch with Maeda. I don't think you need to spend it on the bats, but you would be different. But it would just be in the name of change, being different, of differentiation. The one thing that's weird here is that Savali's numbers are not going to project to be anything at all. I just will point out the teams that he's faced outside of, he dominated Detroit twice, which you should dominate Detroit, but he really dominated Detroit twice to start the year. Then he had the White Sox, Yankees, and Minnesota. And he was good in all of them. And now you get KC, who's not as good as any of those teams from a hitting perspective. I know you've got a reasonable total here, but I have a little bit of interest in Savali. I don't love it, but again, I'm trying to find pitchers on this slate. So mild interest in both pitchers. And at the same time, I don't really want to pick on Savali. I don't think he's bad. I just don't.
I would like to say that Soler at 3,700 is a good price.
He's always going to be one of them, right?
And Witt and Perez are always bad prices, but they always get there.
Right, because they're awesome. But the other guy is Ryan O'Hearn, who you'd want for power up. It's gonna be fun to play the Royals going forward because you don't want to stack teams like this, but it's the kind of team that could score 3 runs and you could get there because you've got Hunter Dozier, Jorge Soler, and Ryan O'Hearn, who all cost nothing and all have massive power and aren't going to do anything else. That's how you win GPPs. So I'm on board with any of those guys. I don't think I would stack against Savali, but I think any one of those guys as one-offs would be my favorites. And Benintendi's prices, even though where he's batting in the order.
I had him the other day with his 100 home runs. That was really good.
It's great when he does that. And the weird thing is he's not stealing quite as much as I thought he'd be this year, but he still has like 5 stolen bases. He will give you some steal upside for that $3K price tag. So guys you could consider, but certainly not my favorite spot. I would like to attack this Lynch situation and play him a little bit, but I'm not as excited about Cleveland's whole lineup. But Jose Ramirez is probably one of the best plays on the slate for me.
So this is my take on the San Francisco-Colorado game. So San Francisco, they priced these guys like free, right? They didn't give them any upgrade at all. And the Colorado guys are pretty fair also. I'm just presuming it plays, like this is my analysis, okay? This is it just came to me like as I was walking today. So I was trying to find the San Francisco guys that I really, really wanted to use, okay? Without considering price, whatever. I'm like, okay, so Marquis, let's try to find the lefties. And I immediately went to Belt, and I immediately went to Dickerson, and then I just kind of stalled, right? I'm like, all right, Yaz is like $1 million, right? He's like the only like expensive guy. And then I'm like into the righties. And then I'm like thinking about what Bobby sometimes does. Why don't I just play like a couple of guys? Like why bother even stacking? Why don't I just play Bell? Why don't I just play Belt and or Dickerson? Then I'm thinking, well, what a great idea. Me and only 700,000 other people are going to play Belt and Dickerson, right? They're probably going to be the most 2 popular guys in the thing. And then I'm like, well, why don't I just play Marquis and just be over it? You know what I mean? So I'm going to try a little of that. Remember, we tried Marquis, or you liked him more either, but I liked him too, in like the perfect spot, like away from Coors in an easy matchup, and he just didn't do it.
I know so many times with him, and then he dominates at Coors. You never know.
Nobody's playing him today, okay? Yep. Especially with the San Francisco guys at basically 2K, right? Relative to what they should be. So I'm gonna try it. That's the way that I am looking at it. And then on the Colorado, and then okay. San Francisco hitters are all going to look good. The guys I mentioned, Belton, Dickerson, I think are going to stand out as the two.
They'll be where everyone starts. Yes.
Right. And on the Colorado side, CJ Cron's been doing nicely. I like what's his name, the most expensive one. I like McMahon. I think he's awesome. I like him. And you can always play Blackman. Hope he's not done. He's done better since I said that. So I must have angered him a little bit. So you play him. I think I like the Colorados more than the San Franciscos. I mean, I don't like them more. I just like them given ownership, like probably more than San. Not that Colorado's going to be owned either, but especially with Blackman at 3,800. That's kind of what I'm doing. I'm more inclined to fade this and pay up for the hitting. Hopefully the Dodgers get to play, or someone else when we get to them in a second, or maybe do the Minnesota thing like you were saying. I'd rather not play the San Francisco stack with Glasnow and Maeda, for example. You know what I mean? I'd rather not do that with the rest of the United States. Where are you?
I don't. This game is weird to me because this is the lowest total, I believe, of the year in Colorado. Or no, it may not be the lowest total, but
there was another one. It was like 32 degrees out.
Yeah, it's 43. I'm sort of interested a little bit in Marquee. Again, there's weather concerns and all kinds of stuff, so that's really dictating a lot of it.
Yep.
It's going to be really popular, and even on the Colorado side, like what we mentioned about Dunning, Sanchez is a much better version of that. A guy who really keeps the ball on the ground, giving up 1 home run only this year, tends to limit damage. Can get a little sloppy and walk a bunch of guys. That's where he gets into trouble sometimes. But I'm not all like, there's the obvious plays who are the ones you mentioned. You know, you have.
Oh, and I forgot Tauchman, obviously.
Yeah, Tauchman and Belt being the top ones, followed by Dickerson, and then probably Longoria. Even Posey, I think, is fine. Even if you want to overpay, I actually think that might be one way to. I don't think people are going to be doing that too much. Maybe they will. Blackman on the other side, Story, Cron, and McMahon would be my favorites, but I'm not that interested in this game. Got the wind blowing in also, not that it matters a ton. I'm okay. I'm probably going to have some pieces of this game, and if I was playing cash, I would start with Blackman, Tauchman, and Belt, but I don't feel the need to jump on this spot here with two guys who are pretty good at, for the most part, limiting damage. Now, it doesn't mean they never get hit because Marquee pitches all the time in Colorado, so he's going to give up some home runs. But he's a much more effective pitcher in Colorado than most guys are, and has been for a long time. So mild interest in him, and as of right now, not currently planning on stacking this game.
I'm telling Steve that we're running 10 minutes late.
All right, sounds good. While you're doing that, I will start off real quick with the next game.
Already done. You got it.
Oh, there you go. Quick as can be. I think both pitchers in this Tampa game are very interesting. How about you?
I'm on. Yeah, I mean, so I wasn't quite getting to who's the Angels pitcher?
Ohtani.
Oh, right. Yeah, I think they are both interesting. Obviously, I think with Buehler out, Glasnow clearly. Oh, clearly.
You don't know for sure about Buehler being out, but yeah, I understand. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure in case that game comes back.
By the way, I'm not. I don't know. I don't think I made it. So I don't think anybody's going to make a fortune ever playing pitchers against the Angels. I don't know. I know Glasnow's been really good. He's been getting the leash this year, which is the really big thing. But I don't know. He played the Yankees. Did fine, 23. Is that going to be good enough? With the exception of that, I mean, played Toronto, got 19. Is that going to be good enough at this price tag? The other ones you got in Oakland. You have a Texas. Even at Boston, only 25. Is that going to be good enough at 10-3? I don't know.
Yes.
And if Buehler does have rain issues, Glasnow will end up being really popular. And do you do the Angels? I mean, they're freaking professionals, man. I mean, they got between Fletcher and I don't think Fletcher's a tough out for openers. Then between Walsh and Ohtani and Rendon's back and Trout. This is not easy business. I'm not locking in Glass now or anything like that. I mean, if you want me to be totally transparent, he's my seventh best pitcher. No, third, fourth, fifth, sixth best pitcher value adjusted on the slate.
Oh wow. Okay.
So that's where I'm at. I do like Ohtani. I got him as fourth right now, and I know Tampa's going to strike out. That I know. I don't know the Angels are ever going to strike.
Right.
Tampa I know is going to strike out, and Ohtani, they actually gave him a bigger leash than I thought. He was getting beat up a little bit or having issues in his last game, and he ended up last game he pitched, I guess, and they ended up letting him roll a little bit. What did he 75 pitches at the end of it? But I thought they were going to take him out earlier than that. He even got 20 fantasy points in a really, really mediocre beginning because he did get those 9 strikeouts. So you got the strikeout, you guys going for strikeouts against a team that likes to give them up. I do like the Ohtani side here. I don't like either of the hitting sides in this game. I'm not going to say you can't play any of these one-offs or something like that, but I don't like either of the hitting in this game.
Yeah, Meadows, Rendon, and Trout in that order would be my favorite one-offs in this game if you were going to go for any, or in Upton. But I'm not going to do it. I'm just throwing it out there. But I can see the argument about the Angels for sure. I've seen Glasnow destroy really good lineups before, so I don't have any problem. I mean, even that Toronto team that, what did he put up, 47 or something against them? He's the best pitcher on the slate, especially if we don't have Buehler, and it's pretty easy to get guys in, so I probably will end up using him more. I agree that it's hard to hit your ceilings against this Angels lineup when they're fully healthy. There is pretty weak spots at the bottom of the order, though. And yeah, I also think Ohtani, again, the pitch thing always worries me on large slates, but we don't have a lot of guys we love in this range, and I think that he should do fine. And even if he gives up some runs, like the strikeout upside is solid. It is kind of warm out here, so it's I think it's gonna be 75 degrees or something at the game time. A little better for bats in general, but I definitely have some interest in Ohtani and Glasnow, and I think that as of right now, I'm still trying to decide where I rank them. I guess I'll do that at the very end, but I think that they're both excellent options.
Toronto, Oakland, both of these pitchers are not for me. I could see somebody making a case for either of them, but I just prefer the others that we talked about in this range better, like between Maeda, Ohtani, even, I mean, maybe not so much Velasquez, maybe a little bit, and even Marquis. I'm just not doing it. I could see the case for either Matz or Montas. By 150, I'd probably end up with some of them. I'm just not going to prioritize either of them. And I think I'm similar with the hitting. I think it's one of those like middling games where I think both pitchers, are going to be okay, and I think the hitting's going to be okay. I don't think that this game is going to produce a tournament winner.
Yeah. So I think I have mild interest in
Which one?
Montas.
Okay.
I like the Blue Jays lineup. I think they're tough, but I think you can also, I mean, there is some strikeouts in there too. I think there's enough upside, but I don't know if I'm really going to go with it. Like, we just named other guys I probably like better, so I had them on my list to start. Maybe I wouldn't end up doing it. Obviously, it's better hitting weather in Oakland than it usually is. 72 degrees, a little bit of wind blowing out. Usually Oakland, we get kind of chilly at this time of year. So I'm on board with like trying to take some one-offs here. I just don't even know really who I want. So I'm probably going to avoid the hitting, to be honest. I'm not especially interested. Maybe I'll change my mind on that one later. It's just hard to find a one-off that I really like.
So for me, these two late games are basically the late night hammers, sort of. Yep. The late night leverage hammers, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe I'm hallucinating, but and I was presuming every game was going to play. So if every game was going to play, what I was envisioning was obviously San Francisco be uber chalk, incredible value. Colorado would take some money, and then if people wanted to spend up, they would go play the Dodgers, which certainly makes a lot of sense against the righty. And then maybe San Diego would just kind of get left. And that's what I was going to do. I was going to, and all these San Diego guys are really expensive, like from top to bottom. And what I was going to, my initial idea was to, like I said, play one of the top guys, play the 4K guy, and then just cram the San Diegos. Like that was going to be my attempt. And I don't have to tell you which San Diego guys there are, but it's Tatis, Machado. I mean, all these guys are just masters right now. What was it? Who are the other guys? Not Hosmer, Myers, whatever. And I wasn't gonna get to either of these pitchers. So Tatis, Machado, Myers, Grisham, Hosmer. Those are gonna be my the guys. And it's hard to get them all in without doing something like I want to do, like play the 4K guy. So that was my initial take on this. And I didn't like anything from Pittsburgh, and I didn't like either pitcher.
Yeah, so I think that I want some pieces. Again, it's tricky right now because I'm not like loving like any of these stacks particularly. I just want to remind everybody, like Tyler Anderson pitched in Colorado, has familiarity somewhat with this team, and also like just doesn't give up that many home runs for a guy who pitched in Colorado. Now they're playing in San Diego. Feels weird to want to prioritize this stack at these prices. Now, do I think he's awesome? No, I'm not saying that, but I don't think I'm going to stack San Diego tonight. He's efficient, effectively gets through his 5 or 6 innings most of the time out there, and I'm not in love with it. Again, I like San Diego. I like him against lefties. Look, I'm always going to play some Tatis. Tatis, Machado, Myers all stand out as the best plays. I just don't think I'm going to end up fully stacking them, and I think they're going to end up being really popular. Now, if they're not popular, I might change my mind about that. I have a mild bit of interest here in Pittsburgh. I actually think that, like, it's a little bit warmer. It's humid, and you just have really cheap options. I mean, except for, well, not everybody's really cheap. My favorite guys actually aren't that cheap, Reynolds and Moran, but Phillip Evans, Eric Gonzalez on the other side of them. Jacob Stallings is a really legitimate catching, just even as a one-off. It makes a lot of sense to me, assuming that he's in the lineup today. So I have a mild interest in Pittsburgh, but I'm not loving any of these stacks today. This feels like a weird slate. I don't love the pitchers. I don't love the stacks. So far, Minnesota is my favorite one, and even that one, even the Dunning arguments we made.
But it's the same concept. In other words, you could pay up for those Minnesota guys and be somewhat contrarian.
That's true. That's fair. Okay, so Baltimore and Seattle. Boy.
I think this is the late night value hammer.
Yeah. So we're playing Seattle, right?
Well, first of all, I was going to say sort of the opposite. Well, first of all, I like Seattle. I do like them as a value. But what I was going to say is I don't. First of all, I don't mind Kramer for openers. As kind of a value stab, and I don't mind either hitters. I mean, I don't mind Baltimore at 0% ownership, and I don't mind Seattle. I think Seattle's going to be a little more. People might try a little bit of that, but I do like Seattle. I have Seattle right now as my 5th best stack, but that's like accounting for value too. You know what I mean? I don't think for raw points. But again, if you want to play, say, Bueller and if he's playing Bueller and Glass now, and you don't want to play the San Francisco guys, right? Mm-hmm. Then I think Seattle's natural. I think you can totally do that.
That's, I think, what I'll probably end up doing. I do think like Haniger is too cheap. I like Seager at 4,200, Kyle Lewis, Marmajaloy at nothing. And you could just pay up for whatever you wanted to do elsewhere, and then it'd be really easy. Like, it doesn't matter what you pay and spend on pitching or other hitters because they're so cheap. So I have a little bit of interest in Seattle. Ty France, Dylan Moore, even Trammell down at near the bottom of the order as talent. Like, so I'm kind of interested. I also think Kramer, you're right, is definitely on the list of guys, but I sort of would like to pick on him. And I know Baltimore's bullpen has been pretty good to start the season. I don't think it's going to stay that way. So I'm definitely looking at. I mean, as of right now, I think I am going to go back to a little bit of the Giants Rocky situation and get some pieces. But I have Seattle and Minnesota as my stacks, but that's accounting for also some weird weather stuff. and then even the Indians, like over there, like you get the wind blowing in hard from left field in that game. It just doesn't. Nothing feels like a great spot for any of these teams exactly. And I may end up having to revisit a little bit of that Toronto Oakland game because I just don't love that many bats, and Seattle and Minnesota on a full slate. And I think Minnesota is my favorite.
It might be a sheet slate where not that you don't need that many points.
This feels, you know what? I hope it's a sheet slate that I can we call, can I get some part of it or something? Like I want it to be a sheet slate that Bobby can still win or something. At least
no.
don't bankrupt
Sheet
Bobby.
Doesn't mean Sheets is winning. I'm just saying that sheet slate just means low scores. That's all.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just kidding around. But yeah, it's not my, it's a weird slate, and I'll probably have better. I'll do a little more digging today, but I'll probably have better information later today. It's just I don't feel great about anything that's outside of Minnesota and Seattle. And my pitchers, I have like in a bunch clustered. I have Maeda as a priority. And I think that I'm just going to probably end up playing Glass now because it's too easy to, even if he's not great, even if he puts up 20 fantasy points, that's probably good enough. The one thing I want to go back to is that there's only one pitcher with a K prop above 6.5 today. And that's Glass now at 7.5. The other 6.5 is Velasquez. And I just think that's worth noting if that game does play that maybe I should have given a little more love to Velasquez at the beginning. I know I'd mentioned him, but
and last comment, and we'll probably deal with this a little later, is I am starting to warm up to Tampa a little bit. I dismissed them a little too quickly.
Okay, interesting. I like it. Okay, I can always get behind the Tampa cheap stack. So, all right, guys, we will be back with you later for some basketball, and we will be back with you later live at 6 Eastern. And yeah. Good luck to everybody out there.
I'll see you in a minute, Bob.